is open to all qualified members of the engineering profession who are prepared to subscribe to a common code of ethics and to commit themselves to professional development throughout their careers. And that's the Mount Newman mine, incidentally. These pictures are big boys and toys type pictures. So who are our customers? Our customers are many and varied. We have internal customers, such as our work colleagues around Australia. We have external ones, such as engineering companies, our sponsors, government, universities, educators. But today I'd like to concentrate on our major customers, our individual members. And I'll sprinkle the term member rather than customer through the presentation. These major customers, our members, pay for the services that we provide through their membership subscription. A point of differentiation from a normal customer relationship is that a substantial number of these members are also our volunteers and our office bearers. They provide the corporate governance and are involved in numerous committees and panels. So some of our members make a major contribution to the organisation, and I'll come back to that important issue of recognition of this member contribution. However, for the majority of our members, their contribution is the payment of their subs, and they expect to get something for that, no different from any other customer. So have our members changed in what they want? Traditionally, Engineers Australia has been a conservative organisation, and this was a fairly true reflection of the membership base. It was not particularly focused on providing value for its members. In fact, the fact that you were accepted as a member was value enough. And being a member gave one a home, and it was demonstration of your support for the profession. We're aware now that many of our members have different expectations. There's an increasing evidence that value is assessed from a transactional perspective, the what's in it for me. And that particularly applies to younger engineers from the so-called X and Y generation. About half our members, interestingly enough, are under 35 years of age, and a substantial number are students. We need, very much as any other business that's dealing with the X and Y generation and young people in general, to be aware of that changing value of perception. After all, these are the people that we want as members for the next 20 or 30 years. But don't forget the other half of the membership, those over 35. They've already been our members for 10 or 20 or 30 years, and they provide the backbone of our volunteers and office bearers. They're the ones that we must look after and retain. Are they questioning the value of their membership? Do we need to change the nature of the services that we provide to this group? Indeed, has our whole customer base begun to question the need to be a member? Have they all become part of the what's in it for me society? And overall, I think the answer is yes, they all have. So we need to remain relevant and valued by our existing members. It's always easier to retain a customer than it is to get a newie, and be able to sell the value of membership to an increasingly sceptical and demanding younger engineering audience. No longer is it sufficient to be the learned body that all engineers should and will belong to for the good of the profession. Sure, there's increasing competition from other professional bodies. However, in many ways, our main competitor is not another organisation, but it's the do-nothing option, the option of not joining a professional body at all. So that's our main competitor as far as we're concerned. It's the do-nothing option. So how have we tackled this challenge? Through surveys of specific member groups, including students and young engineers, we've concluded that the most widely valued membership benefit, that of the provision of continuing professional development and networking opportunities, hasn't changed for some 10 years. And what's the lesson from that? Well, don't change what we do well, but try to do it better and add to it. In addition, there appears to be a need for a wider range of services in career planning and development for young engineers, and a feeling amongst more senior engineers that there's no place for them, particularly as they move into management roles. As well, our special interest groups are demanding more recognition. You can see that differentiation into different interest groups and different target audiences amongst our membership. We've therefore endeavoured to provide a larger range of services for specific groups within the membership. Examples of this are career advice by email, our Centre for Engineering Leadership and Management for that corporate end of town, careers expos for students, more support for our Women in Engineering group. Overall, is more bang for the buck and more targeted services for specific groups. Most of these are very tangible things, almost easy wins really, perhaps satisfying that what's in it for me perception. But knowing your customer and what they perceive as real and overall value and what they expect to receive is somewhat more difficult. What are those intrinsic elements of value in their perception of maintaining their membership? It's not so much a tangible product, but more a member's reaction to an experience. Even if the experience includes some tangible benefits, such as a journal or a seminar or a presentation, the essence of the total value delivered depends on the member's mental and emotional state resulting from that experience. It's all about the feelings. And what is it that Toyota uses? The "oh, what a feeling." I'd like to now come back to the concept of members contributing to the organisation. For many of our volunteers, this is the main reason that they belong. These wonderful members who belong to our committees, they support the organisation, they promote us to their colleagues, they become our partners and our friends. And I'm sure you can find some customer parallels in your business. Couldn't more of our members get more value from their membership if we could inspire them to be more participative? In a recent workshop, we found that volunteers said that we could encourage more members to participate if they were to see some of the following. If they were to be acknowledged for their volunteer contributions, if there was a celebration of their active involvement, if it made people feel good, and if there was an enjoyable and a social volunteer environment. And this is the value that members would get from this volunteering activity. It would provide some of those valuable, intangible benefits and maybe target some of those emotional perceptions, those feelings, that acknowledgement, the celebration and the enjoyment. And I think you can translate that into a customer relationship. And if you put these on top of a set of tangible benefits, I think you've got a pretty powerful mix, and I think you've got a great value statement. The customer profile in your company may be very different from my membership, but I hope that the message will apply to some of your customers. I'd like now to just move to a particular sector of our membership, and that's providing services to our members in regional and remote areas. A good proportion of our members live and work in regional and remote areas, and this number has obviously increased with the resources boom. They can't take part in the majority of the technical and social program of events that take place in Perth, and they feel a bit disenfranchised and disconnected from the majority who can access these opportunities. The internet allows us to meet some of these needs using video stream presentations, electronic copies of papers, regular email contact and the website. However, the most important member benefit, the provision of face-to-face professional development and networking opportunities, is obviously more of a challenge. And what is more, our regional members tell us that it's even more important for them to have these opportunities to meet, to network and to socialise, because they only deal with their workmates, they live in smaller communities, and they don't have many opportunities for professional development. We've endeavoured to address this need for special treatment of remote area people in a number of ways, and I'll just outline a couple of them to you. We've set up local membership groups around towns in WA. We've encouraged a self-help model where we support them with administration, organisation and logistics from Perth. We've encouraged them to work with other professional associations that have the same issues as us in remote areas. We've encouraged them to become involved in our community-based activities such as our schools programs, because they work really well in regional and smaller towns. And we also make sure that we visit them regularly, that we send speakers to these small towns, and that our office bearers and staff manage to get up there a couple of times a year. We're obviously relying more on these members than to be our volunteers. Along with that, we need to make sure with these tangible benefits that we provide them with those intangible benefits that I was talking about, that we make sure that they are acknowledged for their contribution, that we celebrate what they're doing, and that we provide them with an enjoyable and a social environment in which they can work. I hope you can see some commonality with your customers in remote areas. It's all about providing the services that you are able to as best you can, and enabling those customers to perceive that there is value, both tangible and intangible. And I have a parting message for you now. It's all about the perception. This was from Charles Revson, who was a chief executive of Revlon Cosmetics somewhere in the past, and he used this example to sum up the idea of subjective value of his company's products and the person's perception of value. And he said, when it leaves the factory, it's lipstick. And when it crosses the counter in the department store, it's hope. Thanks.
Thanks, Janice. I appreciate that. It's nice to see those photographs. It reminds me of last week. I was doing some work with BHP in Queensland on their Cannington site, which is about 300 kilometres inland from Townsville. And on the way back through transit through Brisbane, I wanted to check my emails, and the Qantas Lounge computer systems were all being used. So I thought I'll check in the kiosk in the normal foyer, and it was $1 to pay to use the internet kiosk, which is no big deal. But all I had on me was 50 cents, 20 cents and 10 cents. So with that, I went to the local Newslink agency, which is just across the thoroughfare from where the kiosk was, and said, do you mind if I can change these coins for a $1 coin? And the response was, sorry sir, we don't open the till unless you purchase something. So I just walked next door and got the $1 coin and picked something up for my son. So it's interesting that customer service doesn't take a lot, but the value to me as a customer is that of just going that little bit extra. Okay. Now I'd like to introduce our next speaker. So what we're doing here is Shane's given a bigger picture. Janice has then looked at what's happening within industry. Nigel's going to have a look at the day-to-day basis of customer service. So Nigel Malcolm is a respected identity in the world of vehicles, fleets and their management. He's been in the Australian motor industry for many years, gaining experience from both sides of the business, and before founding Fleet Care. Nigel's commercial background was in offices and workshops of car manufacturing, dealers, wholesalers and motor vehicle users. Nigel Malcolm is the driving force behind Fleet Care's growth, and since 1989, Fleet Care has expanded to become Australia's largest privately owned fleet management company, with clients such as Pfizer, Foster's and Westrac, to name a few. Excellent customer service is integral to the delivery of a premium fleet management service. With Nigel's foresight and commitment to technology and innovation, Fleet Care has become a remarkable story of business success in Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, can you please welcome Nigel Malcolm.
Thanks for that, Greg, and good morning. How often have you noticed that just every once in a while we come across one of those organisations that everybody that you come into contact with just delivers fantastic service. And it happens from that first moment when you make that phone call and they answer the phone quickly and sharply and you think, geez, these guys are pretty switched on. And it continues on another phone call and you start to think, I'm getting a bit of a theme here. And you go to their organisation one day and you walk in and the people actually look at you when they talk to you. And it's not just one person that's like this, it's the whole organisation. And you get a really good feeling about this. And you might need to complain about something and you lodge your complaint, but you end up apologising to them because they've made you feel so good about the situation. I mean, we find these occasionally, don't we? And when we do, they're a real gem. But the interesting thing about this is that when we do find them, it's generally everybody in that organisation is like that. So that's our one extreme. And then our other extreme, we get those other organisations where they just can't seem to get it right. And that's from the very first moment, because you try to ring them and they don't answer the phone. And eventually when they do, you're not sure if the person actually works there because they don't know what they're talking about. And then in frustration, we go down there and we walk in and we know we're interrupting them because they haven't finished talking about the weekend. So in desperation, you leave because you like their product. You go on their website. And even that doesn't reply to you. It's these two extremes that intrigue me. And I certainly believe it's the environment that those organisations have created that's ultimately resulted in that culture. And that's what I'd like to talk to you about today. I need to give you a little bit of background on fleet care. We live in a 380,000 vehicle market providing fleet management, which includes fuel, maintenance and leasing and all those other things. The market's dominated by two major players who've got just under 50% of the market share. And in fact, one of those has been in the press just recently, so it's not hard to guess who that is. And here we are, we're sort of stuck between those two ugly sisters. And our major competitors in this group are the big guys, the big three. Now for us, as a small business, of what I'll categorise as a small business in competition with international companies, we find our competitors are just too big to cope with. There are advertising budgets. You know, there's no way known we can match that marketing dollar. At the same time, we can't claim we're the biggest. We can't claim we're the first. So we need to be different. And a little bit different too, we're coming from Western Australia, dealing in a market in the eastern states. So we've got a lot against us. So what we do is we capitalise on our competitive weaknesses. And there's two areas that we do that in. First one's customer service. Now the majority of our competitors are backed by banks. So we reckon we've got them on customer service to start off with. And the second part is technology. And I'm going to touch on technology just briefly at the end. But it's the whole customer service part and what all that means. And I've got to tell you, for a long time, you know, when I started Fleet Care, I always believed customer service is just what you did. It's how you dealt with people, because that's what you do. Anyway, we engaged a marketing company called Wildmood, and Georgie's actually here with us today. And she said to me early on in the part, she said, Nigel, we've got to understand what your customers think of your organisation. And I've got to tell you, that freaked me out rather much, because I thought I knew what they wanted. So I gave her the list. You know, she was going to go out and talk to our customers, and she sent the team out to talk to them, and I gave them the list. You know, we're Australian, we're independent, we've got great products and all those things. Anyway, she came back a couple of months later and she said, you've got it wrong. I went, what do you mean? She said, I went through that list with everybody, and almost every single person said, yes, that's all nice, and yeah, you've all got similar products, you do fuel and maintenance and all that. But the thing they liked about your organisation was your people. I mean, that blew me away. I thought, fantastic. And she said, they like the fact that when they ring in, they speak to a person and not a machine. That your people reply, they phone back, and they go the extra mile. Now, for me, this was just a fantastic thing to hear coming back from our customers. But what it taught me, though, was that businesses deal with people. And within that, you need to understand what your customers think of you in their dealing with you. Now, like Shane, my background, I'm a mechanic. So I think I come from a reasonably good position to be able to talk to you about the actual cleanliness of workshops. And if I can hear the groan coming from over there already, because if you've ever been at Fleet Care, you hear the story quite often. But in the whole workshop environment, you get two extremes, a little bit like my first example. We have the clean workshop. And in this workshop, it's a fantastic environment. You walk in and the floor is spotless. You could almost eat off it. And if you pick up a tool from the bench, your hand is clean. And it's always put back on the rack in the right spot. And if it was damaged, the person who used it previously would have repaired it. And if the mechanic's walking across the floor and they spill some oil, they bend down, they mop it up as they go, and the rag gets dropped in the bin. And if the bin is overflowing, that mechanic will pick it up and they'll go out and empty it. No, Shane, you'll correct me on this. They'll get the apprentice to pick it up and they'll go and empty it. But the fact is that they look after it themselves. Then on the other extreme, we get the dirty workshop. And I have to tell you, this is the pigsty. You walk in and the floor is generally covered in muck. And the last time it had a good clean was when some poor sod slipped in it and managed to use the back of their shirt to wipe it. You pick up a tool and it's not, you know. And the items, if you can find them, are generally broken because the person before doesn't care. And it really is just like, throw it there, I've done with it, I don't care about it, somebody else can find it attitude. And the whole environment's like that. And in fact, it's not a nice place to work in because everybody only cares about themselves. And it's not nice for your customers to go in there. Now, the interesting thing about these two extremes is that if the mechanic comes from the clean, we'll go the other way. If the mechanic comes from the dirty workshop and he goes to the clean workshop, it's the team that regulates it, not the management. They'll say to him, mate, pick that up. I'm not cleaning up behind you. You've used that tool, you hang it up after. This is how we do it here. It's the team that does this. And then conversely, if the mechanic from the clean workshop goes to the dirty workshop, they last about an hour because they stand there and they think, I can't live with this. It's not me. I'm not enjoying it. So they leave. So both of these areas are self-regulating and the non-conformists always leave. Now, the interesting thing here is, in the clean workshop, you'll never see a sign that says, clean up, pick it up, put it away. But you'll never see the same sign in the dirty workshop saying, make a mess, toss it, don't care. It's about the environment you work in. And what I say to you today is that you need to consider your environment. What sort of people does it attract? And what sort of attitudes does it develop? So it's about the environment. And what have we done at Fleet Care? Well, we focus on the little things. And as a corporate, we start with the little things. Our kitchen is well stocked with quality items. There's fruit, there's biscuits. If somebody new starts and they like to have green ginger tea with whatever that flour is, we'll get it in for them. And it's tidy. You will never find a coffee cup in the sink. And the bench is white. And that's from a corporate. That's one of the little things that we do for our people. But they're expected to do the little things as well. Be attentive, look after the small items for their customers, because it's the small things that often count. It's often the things that we're measured on. And everybody at Fleet Care has to be prepared to go the extra mile. So if a customer rings on Monday and says, look, you know, I've lost my fuel card, I need to go on I'm going on an extensive trip on Tuesday, I need my card tomorrow and I'm in Dubbo, the person on the phone can make a decision to have that couriered to them. It's an extra expense, but that person can make that decision. Now, if they've hung up and the team member beside them heard them in this conversation and didn't feel they went the extra mile, they can turn around and say, look, this is what we can do. Why don't you ring them back and do it